Wait a minute. The milk's gone. Oh, jeez. Hello and welcome to BookTube with Simon, officially the only show on YouTube that says hello and welcome to BookTube with Simon. Today we're discussing Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman, which I read as a buddy read with Ange with an E. And it's actually my first ever buddy read. So if you are not a buddy reader, then you may not know that we apparently all use an app called Voxer to discuss our thoughts as we go along and leave cute little voice notes to each other. So as I say, this was my first buddy read, and so I looked to Ange for guidance and prepared a smashing joke.
Come in, Ange. Do you read me? Over.
What was supposed to happen is she would reply, "Why I read ya, man." That was more Jamaican than Sunderland. And I would reply, "Well, you shouldn't be. You should be reading Eleanor Oliphant." Sniff, 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 sniff. But quite wisely, Ange ignored that note entirely, which I think is because she knew that there was some sort of terrible joke coming and she didn't want to entertain it. I understand that and I forgive it. The Eleanor of Eleanor Oliphant lives an extremely insulated life, which consists of working and drinking and sleeping. And this book is just about a period in her life where she has to interact with more people than she ever has, and what that's like for her. Now, what I want to say is it's one of these books where one plot point leads to another thing, which leads to another thing. But I don't want to say that because some smarty pants is going to type in the comments, "That's how books work, you idiot." Which is true. But I mean it in this sense, it's quite hard to summarise the plot without giving away stuff that happens at all. There are two setups that I guess I can share. The first is that Eleanor has become infatuated with a singer in a band and has decided that if they meet again, he will fall for her and they'll go off into the sunset together. So she is preparing herself for this life with this singer. And the other storyline is when Eleanor and a colleague see an old man collapse in the street and take him to hospital. That starts a chain of events where she comes into contact with his family, and what comes out of that. So it all comes down to how she sees the world, how she sees her workplace, how she deals with the general events that follow on from these plot points. We find out early doors that Eleanor has had some trauma, and it's hinted at quite heavily what that trauma was. But I like the way that she doesn't really go into a lot of detail on it, because it's not a big deal to her, or the consequences of it are not a big deal to her. That they are fairly mundane side effects that are no more consequential to her than anything else in her life. So I criticised The Perfect Wife because the narrator would tease you with a little bit of something and then pull back, and tease you with a bit and pull back, and I found it annoying and contrived because the author knew the whole story and it was just a device to keep you reading more that you would only be drip-fed bits of it. And this book, Eleanor Oliphant, also drip-feeds you stuff, but it does it as perfectly as The Perfect Wife does it badly. Eleanor just mentions stuff that is relevant to the situation that she's in at that time. She doesn't need to fill in the backstory because she knows the backstory, and she's not telling you the backstory because she's no reason to assume you're interested in it. So you're just left to piece together what happened from the allusions and the hints and the references to it that she makes. That, for me, is a much more satisfying way of piecing it together. The downside of being me, of which there are many, is I read an awful lot of thrillers. So I kept trying to read into this far too much. And because it's quite obvious what happened, I kept thinking, well, it can't be that simple, can it? There has to be another big twist, and that's what you do when you read thrillers. You try and guess the twist and guess what's going to happen. So I was guessing stuff, and as I was speaking to Ange was guessing stuff, and we were winding each other up trying to get to the answer.
Alright mate, do you want a cup of tea?
A likely story. You're only asking that so that when you switch on the kettle, an electrical surge is going to make the place go up in flames.
I would die as well then, wouldn't I?
Wait a minute, I remember now. The milk's gone lumpy. You're going to expect me to choke to death on a lump of milk. It's the perfect crime. No one would ever think about it. I just choked to death on this lump of milk, and they'll just assume I died mid-slurp. Well, no sirree, not today. No thank you. The milkman's been. The milkman. That sounds like a gangster name for your assassin.
No, it sounds like the person that delivers the milk.
Well, okay then, but you make a cup for yourself. I'll decide which cup we drink from.
Fine.
And I want you to take the first sip. Yeah.
Yeah, fine. Fine, whatever.
You've got the antidote though, don't you?
Antidote for what?
I can smell it. 5G.
5G doesn't have a smell.
Yeah, well, you know who would say that, don't you?
Who?
Someone who wants me to drink 5G.
Oh, for goodness sake, there's no electrical surge, no death lumps of milk, no assassins, no 5G. It's just a cup of tea.
Drink tea in hell, evil spit!
My wife loves this book. It is her best read of 2019, and so when I kept giving her my theories about what the twist was, she did keep saying to me, look, you're going to be disappointed. There is no big twist. There is no big reveal. It's just about Eleanor and Eleanor's life. You're missing the point of the story. And I thought, this is a red herring. No, she's doing it to wind me up. And then Ange said the same thing as well, sort of halfway through reading it. She went, do you know, I think we're forgetting this isn't a thriller and there's no twist. And they were right. But I wasn't actually disappointed, because the story is, as my wife told me, about Eleanor. How much you enjoy Eleanor Oliphant is going to be very much connected to how much you enjoy hanging out with Eleanor Oliphant. It's her story, narrated by her. It covers her life over a short period of time and just her reaction to a fairly routine set of circumstances. So like I say, Eleanor has had quite a secluded, isolated life. Modern society baffles her quite a lot, and she's quite sheltered in many ways. Some people criticise the fact that somebody who is pushing 30 as she is perhaps unfamiliar with a McDonald's, doesn't know how to order a pizza, things like this. It just seems too much for some people to believe. I personally don't accept that. When you read Eleanor's story and how she came to be where she is and who she is and as she is, I don't find it that difficult to believe. Certainly if you were to meet Eleanor and find out these things about her, you would be surprised probably that someone had never been to a McDonald's. But surely we do not live in a society where it is unfathomable that people have not gone to fast food restaurants or ordered in takeaway. I mean, there are some people out there like that. I introduced my friend Andrew to Just Eat a few years ago, and his life was forever changed by the idea that people could actually bring cooked food to your door. Now, what I had heard a lot about before reading the book was Eleanor Oliphant's outspoken inner monologue, that she had very, very strong views on much of modern society and was quite blistering in sharing those views with the reader. And so I was asked a few times as I was reading it, how are you finding her blistering internal monologue? And I kept saying I haven't got to the blistering bits yet. It was actually a wee while into the book that I realised I had got to the blistering bits. I just hadn't registered them as blistering because they are correct. Eleanor may well say things in her head that most of us wouldn't say out loud to somebody else, but everything that she did say was absolutely correct. She called out modern society on its absolute ridiculum. So please let me share 8 times Eleanor Oliphant is completely correct, and 1 time she is devastatingly wrong. Tea. Tea is pure and good for body, mind and soul, and I am fed up of seeing people ruin it. There is but one acceptable way of making tea, and that is this. Tea bag first, sugar optional, add your water, leave to brew, remove tea bag, add milk, drink. That's it. That is it. Variations on that are not acceptable. Especially unacceptable. You never, ever, 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 ever put the milk in before the water. Never, ever, 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 ever. If you are the sort of person who puts in the milk before the hot water, please unsubscribe. If you know somebody who puts in the milk before the water, please drown them in milk. It is not okay. It is an affront. It is an abomination. It is not what tea is for. You do not deserve tea. Water first, milk last. Top tip, brew, don't stew, and definitely don't stir. We are not James Bond. Shaking and stirring are out of the equation. You put the tea in the cup, let it brew for an appropriate time according to taste. There's an art to knowing just how long, and then you remove the tea bag. If you put a skinny dip, that is not really tea, is it? That's just hot milk. And you do not stir and abuse and mistreat the tea bag. So Eleanor is completely correct when she says if you're going to go to the bother of making tea, you need to at least make it properly. Correct. Engagement presents. Not necessary. Why are we buying engagement gifts? This is a gift because a couple intend to do something. In no other point of your life do you get a gift for intending to do something. When you apply for a job, you don't get a gift as congratulations for putting in the application form. When you decide to finish your degree, you don't get a gift for bothering to attend the lecture. Getting engaged is not an achievement. Getting engaged is not a life event. Getting engaged doesn't actually change anything at all. It is simply a statement of intent. We, the couple, intend to get married at some point. In no other area of life do you get pre-presented for an achievement you haven't yet had. Doesn't happen. No. Engagement gifts, not acceptable, not deserved, nothing's happened yet. Plans for the weekend chat. Oh, good grief. Who came up with this convention where you have to ask your colleagues what they're doing for the weekend, they ask you what you're doing for the weekend? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I don't think about my colleagues at the weekend. I don't even remember that I have colleagues at the weekend. I don't care what they're doing, and they don't care what you're doing. And if you don't believe me, try this out in the office. When people ask you what you're doing at the weekend, tell one person, I'm just having a quiet duvet day watching a couple of DVDs. Tell the next person, I'm going to personally scale Mount Kilimanjaro, have tea and cake with the Pope at the summit, and then I'm going to get the river dancers to jog down with me all the way, because that is going to be just really refreshing and fun. Both of those stories will get the same reaction from different colleagues, and the reaction is this. Yeah, sometimes you just need that, don't you? I'm just having a quiet one. No, stop. It's ridiculous. And People make it up, and I refuse to bow to the pressure of trying to come up with an interesting sounding weekend. If I want to have a boring weekend, I'll have a boring weekend. Thank you very much. Text speak. I mean, this was okay to begin with. When you had the old style phone and you had to press the button multiple times to get it to turn into the letter that you wanted. In those circumstances, it's fair enough to just go R, U, O, K, because it was so much effort to get to each letter. No longer. The majority of people with a phone have a smartphone that just has letters on a keyboard, like a normal keyboard. So if you can type on a normal keyboard R, U, OK, then you can certainly do it on this one in the palm of your hand. R, U, OK. There is no need to be abandoning letters and abandoning punctuation. I have friends in Serbia, as you do, who once told me they found it aggressive that I end text messages with a full stop. It's how sentences end! This generation of avocado munchers cannot seriously find grammar aggressive. It is regressive to just stop using grammatical punctuation at the end of a sentence. It aids understanding. It's what it's for. Not using it is lazy. This brings me to apostrophes. Allow me to quote Eleanor Oliphant in reference to school sports days. As if silver in an egg and spoon race was some sort of compensation for not understanding how to use an apostrophe. Apostrophes are not optional. Apostrophes are not complicated. Apostrophes are your friend. Somebody I went to university with, who is now a teacher in primary school, who now teaches children grammar, who is now relied upon by the next generation, whoever comes after Generation Z, to learn how to use apostrophes correctly. And when she sends me a text, she will routinely, if not religiously, misuse your. For example, if she was to send Simon, "You're the best friend I ever had. You're an inspiration. I'm so lucky." As she regularly does, she will use the wrong "you're." And I always remind her of this, and she tells me it is an abbreviation. It's not an abbreviation. It's wrong. Fish from McDonald's. She's correct. It's disgusting. Have you ever had it? Have you actually ever had it? I ordered it once, expecting fish. Maybe fish in breadcrumbs. I did not expect fish bathed in a sauce of bile. It was like eating fish and a stranger's vomit in a bun. Yuck. Darwin signs. So I've referred to these collectively as Darwin signs, and it is Eleanor's completely fair bafflement about the fact that there are signs everywhere telling idiots how to stay alive. So she cites examples such as in the hospital you shouldn't drink the hand sanitizer, and when she bought a coffee that it was hot. I understand a lot of this is to prevent these places from being sued by idiots, but generally I am anti the Darwin signs. If people are stupid enough to drink hand sanitizer or to neck piping hot coffee with steam coming out it, let them. It is only going to be good for our species when these idiots off themselves and then people with a modicum of common sense are allowed to procreate. Niam niamensis. Eleanor has a plant, and the type of plant she's got is called Niam niamensis. And she says it is an incredibly fun word to say, and after she first said it, she continued to say it over and over and over again for the kicks. So naturally, when I was reading it, I had to say it, Niam niamensis. And it is so much fun to say. You just keep saying it, Niam niamensis, Niam niamensis, Niam niamensis. And if you haven't already said it in this video, then you're going to be itching to. So if we can all just stop for a minute, take it away. I'll wait here. Tell me your life hasn't just changed. Tell me. Christmas. Eleanor Oliphant is incorrect about Christmas. She says she doesn't like it. She's wrong. She is wrong. She just hasn't done it properly yet. I would say anybody that doesn't like Christmas, this isn't working, anybody who doesn't like Christmas just hasn't done it properly, for goodness sake. I hate tinsel though, I'll give you that. Anybody who says they don't like Christmas just hasn't done it properly yet. Because Christmas is, and I have this on good authority from Paul McCartney, by the way, Christmas is the most wonderful time of year. It is the time when we can have hot chocolate. It is the time when we can watch all the films that really we wouldn't get away with watching any other time of year. It is the time when you get to sort of allow people to let you think you don't hate them without having to explicitly say it. It's the time when we suspend disbelief that the world is not just going to get even worse next year. It's the time when we can be optimistic even though we've been proven wrong every year of our lives. It is the time when we can have massive roast dinners, when we can listen to music that we genuinely enjoy, that is, you know, from a better era, when songs had tunes and lyrics and wasn't just a case of filth vulgarity. It's great, and especially this year, everyone is looking forward to Christmas because it is the surest sign yet that 2020 will end. This year has been a right rubbish one, hasn't it? But 2020 is nearly over, 2021's on the way, things are looking up, and this is the time to get excited about it. Now, I know it's still November, but it is less than 7 weeks until Christmas now. It is 6 and a bit weeks. This is your official 6 and a bit week warning. So look, whether you're a Christmas lover or a Christmas hater, whether you think it is bleak midwinter or indeed wish it could be Christmas every day, I think this year more than ever it is incumbent on all of us to give this Christmas the best chance to be the most magical, wonderful part of the year. So let's let our voices raise up around the world. Sing along at home. This is Jingle Bells EO Let's Go, an ode to 2020. Rampaging through the year, wrecking all our plans. Get your refund now, cause you can't go away. The Olympics flame went out, Eurovision was quite fake, and now Ant and Dec have moved the jungle to Wales, for goodness sake. Oh, jingle bells, jingle the year away. Though chances of a Brexit deal get slimmer every day. Oh, jingle bells, lockdown smells, we're on Zoom calls every day. You're on mute, you're not dressed, but God bless the NHS. A month or two ago, Trump beat COVID and would gloat, but America's gonna be great again because he lost the vote. He wants to stop the count. On a golf course he is hiding, but whether he concedes or not, the next president is Joe Biden. Oh, jingle bells, 2020 made me fatter. The racists got a nasty shock when we said that Black Lives Matter. Oh, lose your taste, lose your smells, you might get a fright, but you can drive to Barnard Castle if you lose your eyesight. This bit's for my Serbian friends. Scotland scored a goal. Prince Harry quit, what a nerve. Harvey Weinstein got thrown in jail. Rot in hell, you fat old perv. Jessie J dumped Channing. Sorry, Tatum, you've lost her. And Amber Heard finally gave a performance that deserves an Oscar. COVID smells that ring the bells, a vaccine's on the way. You can hug your granny and your son in 2021. We can bin the masks, have dirty hands, party round at mine. At Christmas, Eleanor, you can be so much more than completely fine. So I don't have anyone cast as Eleanor because I found it really difficult to picture. When I read the book, and the title and the cover artwork for the book, it makes me think of somebody much older than Eleanor, who is about 30. And so I actually had a hard time imagining her. I found the supporting characters easier to imagine. Raymond, I also thought of as being older initially, but he works with Eleanor in the IT department, and he's, you know, heart of gold but a bit scruffy. Chris Pratt is the name or the face that I associated with that character. I also imagined Roisin Connerty as Laura, who is the daughter of somebody that Eleanor and Raymond encounter. And as is often the case, Roisin Connerty doesn't match the description in the book. This happens to me a lot. I read a name and I read a bit of the character and a bit of the dialogue, and if an image appears, it's then wedged there for the rest of the book. And if the book goes on to subsequently describe that character as being in any way different to that, the book is wrong. The book is wrong. I am right. And I find it very difficult to change my image of a character after they have settled. So Roisin Connerty and Chris Pratt are supporting characters in Eleanor Oliphant, which has a completely anonymous lead star. I've only just realised that my soundtrack card has got a typo. Has anyone else noticed this? Because I've used this from my very first video and it's quite embarrassing, so I'm going to have to fix that. Anyway, the soundtrack to Eleanor Oliphant for me was McFly's new song, Tonight is the Night.
Tonight is the night. Tonight is the night. I admit to myself that I'm asking for help. Na, 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 na.
I actually really like this song, so it's been on a lot in the background recently as I've been reading. So in the future, when I hear that song again, I will think of Eleanor. But I think it's really good for two reasons, apart from just being the zeitgeist track. One is, of course, Eleanor is planning to meet this musician that she really likes, and tonight is the night that she's planning to meet him, and they're going to start their life together, and there are a few setbacks, as you would expect, along the way. But obviously the track is about reaching the point where you need to address your mental health and you ask for help. And as ever, spoiler free comments here, but Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine, tackles some mental health issues as the book progresses, and it does it in an extremely responsible and I think effective way. The arts have a difficult relationship with mental health. We all know that so often people with mental health conditions are cast as the villain because some sort of mental health condition has caused them to behave in the way that they do, or they are a victim of their circumstances. And films and books can be really guilty of, even when they do try to tackle mental health conditions responsibly, they very often end with a really fluffy finale where they accept that they need help, and that is the end. And this book tackles these themes in one of the best ways I think I've ever seen it tackled in a book. It's really very raw when we get to this sort of stuff. It is very, and you know, that's probably something to be aware of as you read it, if it's something that is likely to make it difficult for you to read. But it is very, very truthful, and very raw, like I say, but it doesn't seem to be for shock value. It just seems to be trying to tell a story in a very genuine way. And then how we move on from the crisis is also very, very truthful and realistic in terms of the fact that it becomes a journey. This isn't a mental health book. This isn't a story about any character and their mental health, but it is one of the themes and part of the story that unfolds. And I really, really think the lyrics of the McFly song work really well with this book, and it's just really good luck that it's a song that I was listening to, not knowing a lot about what this book was going to be like and how it would unfold. Really good luck that the lyrics and the prose came together in that way. McFly, for viewers outside of the UK who might not be familiar with them, they're one of our biggest boy bands in the UK, and the fact that they are topping the charts singing about mental health is in and of itself quite an amazing thing. Suicide is still the biggest cause of death for men under the age of 40. And November is the month when the UK tends to see more suicides than any other month. And that's not when we're having the year that we're having now. I've said before, I started this channel as a way of doing what I could to lift people's spirits in some small way during a fairly terrible year that we're all having. So many people are living with the impact of coronavirus and our efforts to stop that, whether those are health conditions, whether people have lost loved ones, whether people are living with the loneliness and the mental health struggles that come from lockdown or from uncertainty or from losing their job or any of the economic pain. That there are so many different people who are finding this year more difficult than any year before, and so to have one of our biggest boy bands top the charts with a song promoting positive mental health is a really amazing thing. Struggling with your mental health at any time in your life is not a sign of weakness. It takes incredible strength to actually say that you need help and support. And this year more than ever, our support networks are perhaps less available to us in the way that they normally would. And if you want to just have a phone call, have a Zoom or have a chat or something like that, because things are tough, then let's do that, because we all need to be here for each other now more than ever. We're all going into new lockdowns and we're all still in a period of real uncertainty and anxiety. So let's look after each other and let's all get each other through this into much better times in the future. For me, Eleanor Oliphant is, I would say, almost 4.5. My wife will be furious because she'd have rated it, 6 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Angie and I set out sort of agreed markers to read it over 4 weeks. I think we read it in 2 because it's really easy to read. The characters are great and you get to really know them and they become your friends. It's a really heartwarming book and I really enjoyed it. But for me, there was just that slight difficulty in picturing Eleanor, the slight sense that because they'd mentioned it was Glasgow but it didn't feel like Glasgow because Eleanor seemed older but she wasn't, there was just a little bit that for me wasn't rounded out quite as well as it could have been. And for anyone that has read it, I do need to, and this isn't a spoiler, but the piece of paper that falls that she keeps, why does she never go back to it? What a tease! So yeah, I would highly recommend it. If you have read it, please let me know your thoughts. If you haven't read it, let me know if you are going to. Keep safe, keep well, keep looking after yourself, and I will see you on the next video. Bon voyage.